This is not the time for politics as usual, for petty differences, for political point scoring. United, we will build Canada strong. A Canada for all, a Canada strong that no one can ever take away. You know, it started quietly. People choosing a wine from the Okanagan over one from California. Anyone had any bourbon recently? No, I don't think so, no. Sorry. A family planning a vacation to Prince Edward Island instead of booking flights to Florida. The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollar to the United States are over.
What you just heard wasn't just a speech. It was a warning. It was a shift. And it may go down as the moment Canada decided it will no longer live in the shadow of anyone, not even the United States, because tonight Mark Carney didn't just speak to a room full of supporters. He spoke to a country that is changing fast, a country responding to a world reshaped by Donald Trump, and a country that's now making one thing very clear. Canada is ready to stand on its own. And before we go further, if you believe in a stronger, more independent Canada, a Canada that stands tall even when challenged by leaders like Donald Trump, then subscribe, because every day we bring you the stories that show how Canada is rising to meet this moment. The world as we've known it is shifting, and is shifting fast. According to Mark Carney, this isn't gradual, it's a rupture. Let's hear what Carney had to say about the new reality shaping Canada's future.
The world's changing. Not gradually, but suddenly. Yes, some are still in denial. Rather than starting on this journey, they're waiting for the past to return. Nope. But hope is not a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy. And if we stand still during this rupture, we will surrender our future to others. My friends, technological change is accelerating. We can either shape our future with AI or let it control our destiny. The foundations of the international order, the order which Canada helped build and from which we have benefited for so long, that order is crumbling.
Now this is where the speech takes a decisive turn away from dependence and towards self-reliance. Carney makes it clear that Canada is rethinking its long-standing ties with the United States. Listen closely to this moment.
The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollar to the United States are over. We are going to build Canada strong with Canada Steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian lumber, Canadian workers.
Now this is where Mark Carney gets very direct. He points to something powerful: Canadians actively boycotting American products in response to tariffs imposed by Donald Trump. And according to Carney, these weren't small gestures. These were collective decisions that sent a message, impacted the United States economy, and proved just how resilient Canadians can be. Let's hear how he explains it.
It started quietly. People choosing a wine from the Okanagan over one from California. Anyone had any bourbon recently? No, I don't think so, no. Sorry. A family planning a vacation to Prince Edward Island instead of booking flights to Florida. Canadians are rediscovering our country. You know, Canada's tourism sector had a record-breaking summer, 50,000 more train rides, 13% more visits to our national parks, 15% more visits to our national museums. Small individual acts of solidarity. but repeated millions of times. And together, they make a statement. We are the masters of our destiny.
And then the speech takes a deeply emotional turn, one that clearly hit Carney himself. This is where leadership meets humanity, and the room went completely silent. Let's watch this moment.
Of everything Canadians have done this past year, the most moving has been how we've looked out for each other, including amidst the worst tragedies. Think of the good people of Tumbler Ridge. When the unimaginable happened, first responders were at the school within 2 minutes. Teachers shielded their children. Neighbors held each other for comfort. Right after the shooting, Jim Caruso packed his bags, traveled over 1,000 kilometers to support families. And Jim said, I want to hug people, pray for them, and most importantly, cry with them. That's Canada. Looking out for each other, standing together when things get tough so that they can get better. I'm right there with you. Canada's new government is right there with you, inspired by hardworking.
Now this is where Mark Carney addresses the issue head-on with Donald Trump repeatedly threatening Canada's sovereignty. Carney delivers a clear and defiant message. This country is not up for grabs. No ambiguity, no hesitation, just a line drawn. Let's hear exactly how he said it.
This is not the time for politics as usual, for petty differences, for political point scoring. United, we will build Canada strong. A Canada for all, a Canada strong that no one can ever take away. I feel that strength. I feel that strength in this room. I feel that strength. I feel that strength. As Diana mentioned, we feel that strength across this great country. At this decisive moment, Canadians are demonstrating just how strong we are.
And finally, Carney brings it all together. This moment, this shift, this sense of national direction, a closing message about who Canadians are and where the country is heading. Let's hear how he ends the speech.
My dear friends, this great country has been built by ordinary Canadians making bold choices and doing extraordinary things. Like the people in this room who show up. Like the people watching who never give up. People who believe in the promise of Canada. You know, it was just a year ago that Canadians were asked a fundamental question. Who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada? You were, and you certainly are. You are et tous les Canadiens.
This wasn't just a speech. It was a direct response to Donald Trump and everything his policies have triggered. From tariffs to threats against Canada's sovereignty to an economic relationship that's now being openly challenged. Mark Carney made one thing clear tonight. Canada is done playing it safe. This is a country that's pulling back its money, rebuilding its industries, and standing up to the United States like never before. And whether you agree with him or not, this moment feels like a turning point. The only question is, how far does this go? Subscribe to Canada Today because this story is just getting started.